You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. They've lost. An article by Daniela Elsa, appearing in news.com.au, talks about the power struggle between King Charles and Harry's wife and Harry. In this triangle, we have one narcissist asserting control, the monarch, another narcissist looking to assert control, Harry's wife, and Harry, the victim. Harry is the intimate partner primary source in sustained devaluation in his wife's fuel matrix, and he is the non-intimate secondary source in his father's fuel matrix, where ordinarily, because he's part of his father's facade, he is treated well. However, as a consequence of recent behaviours which threatened his father's sense of control, his father has been issuing corrective devaluations against him and has largely been leaving him on the shelf. Thus, a power struggle has been going on, with, of course, Harry's wife looking to assert control over the monarch and the extended royal family in terms of continuing to criticise them whilst utilising the name, and, of course, trying to make the king's coronation all about her. Are they coming, are they not? Is she coming, is she not? And continuing to issue demands for apologies and certain terms and conditions before they turn up. This, of course, all amounts to being certain threats to the control of King Charles, and he has to deal with them appropriately, nullifying them. And therefore, in the circumstances, there has been this ongoing struggle. But it is the view of Daniela Elsa that Harry and Harry's wife have lost. She writes, in hindsight, with the benefit of all of that 2020 vision, new glasses and the passage of time, there is something a tad surprising about that infamous trip Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, took to Las Vegas in 2012. He didn't gamble. As far as was reported at the time, the royal might have spent his days drinking and sloshing about in the cocktail of chlorine and antibiotic-resistant chlamydia in the MGM Grand Pool, but blackjack, roulette, craps, not once did he wager one of his grandma's canalettos on the ace of spades. The Duke, back then, would not appear to have been a man who fancied a wager. But now, more than a decade on, and a second infamous Harry Todger incident later, I think we can say that his biggest, boldest and riskiest gamble has flopped. The House, or more accurately Buckingham Palace, has won. Harry, and his wife Harry's wife, the Duchess of Sussex, might have spent the last 2 years waging an exhausting, never-ending battle of wits and PR strategy against the firm, but they have actually ended up on the losing side. Over the last 2 years, the Sussexes have thrown a hell of a lot of criticism at Charles, Queen Camilla, William and Kate, smearing, indirect assertion of control, and at the institution of the monarchy as a whole. Questions were asked about the Duchess's unborn baby's skin colour. Titles were not freely handed over. Tears were cried, hugs denied, curtsies not taught, blind eyes were turned to critical reporting, mental health crises tidied under Aubusson rugs, and then there was that one time William took a swing at him, at the brother, and a dog bowl paid the ultimate price. All of these things, of course, amount to pity plays and smearing and provocations which are issued by Harry's wife for the purpose of trying to assert control over the various constituent parts of the fuel matrix. Daniela Elsa continues, and yet today on the other side of all of this, after about 40 hours, according to the Washington Post, of interviews and various media outings, after 416 pages of a book and one entire far too long docuseries, one thing is clear. The royal family is fine. Dinged? A bit bruised? Was it a white-knuckle ride for parts there? Absolutely. Some of the Sussexes' claims about Prince Harry's family and the way the royal machine works are easier to wave off than others that have rightly chipped the House of Windsor's image. For one thing, that Harry's wife was not given the support she needed and fast when suffering from suicidal thoughts in 2019. Interjecting there, it would appear, however, most people don't accept that that was actually the case, given her subsequent behaviours. Indeed, Piers Morgan was quick to state that he didn't believe her, and he was entirely correct, because not only did the evidence show that there was an incongruous response between how she was behaving and how she claimed she had behaved, but the fact is that her behaviours as a narcissist would not support that that would actually happen, but rather she would revise history by way of a pity play. Elsa continues that for another there's the infamous skin colour comment about how dark their first baby's skin colour might be, made to the Duchess while she was pregnant with Archie by an unnamed London relative. Comedian Chris Rock might have recently dismissed this as just some in-law shit, but the royal family's at best blithe insensitivity and lack of awareness when it came to their first biracial member reflects very poorly on them. But interjecting once again, they have weathered the storm in that respect, and most people, now knowing what Harry's wife is about, see this as her smearing and utilising a pity play, and also the fact that between the two of them they couldn't get the story straight as to apparently who'd said it and when. In January, Elsa continues, when Harry took a break from his new US life, which seemed to involve him communing with hummingbirds and occasionally fixing a neighbour's hose, he made clear what he hoped to get out of his father and his brother. Speaking to the Telegraph's Bryony Gordon, he said he wanted some accountability and an apology to my wife. Addressing them directly, he also said, because you know what you did, and I now know why you did it, and you've been caught out, so just come clean, and then we could all move on. This, of course, demonstrates the way that Harry's thinking has been perverted and corrupted by his wife's poisoning of him. However, Charles has not made a single solitary outward concession to his son and daughter-in-law. Rejection of threat to control. There have not been any apologies, any admissions that maybe the royal family could have done more, or that they might have erred in the slightest. The reason for this is that, whilst some people might say, well, there's some things that you could have apologised for, King Charles isn't going to do so. He's not going to issue false contrition either. He sees that there is nothing to apologise for, and that his own narcissism maintains that that is the case. There is no need for him to make an apology, and therefore he does not. This then means that he continues to assert control, and of course it gets right up Harry's wife's reorganised nose, because it's not giving her what she wants and is thus threatening her sense of control. Elsa writes, the House of Windsor has sailed through this storm and made it to the other side. And that leaves Harry and Harry's wife having played all of their cards and the king not having blinked once. Now, of course, it isn't the case that Harry's wife has played all of her cards. She'll continue to try and throw pelters, dole out pity plays, but they will become even less effective because people have had enough of her. Elsa writes, even if the self-exiled couple was to, say, pop up on Good Morning America to lob a fresh volley of their signature brand of truth bombs at London, I reckon the public reaction would be something of a collective shrug, and I agree with Elsa's conclusion in that regard. Like the boy who cried wolf, as the Duke and Duchess have reiterated very similar claims over and over, and with each telling, audiences' shock, anger and outrage has only faded more and more. Not only that, I would add that so many more people aren't even outraged or angered in the slightest, but rather think, oh yes, more of this claptrap, more of these lies, I don't believe it. In fact, not only is it the case that some people would have been desensitised to it because it keeps happening, the fact that they keep doing it has caused many people to think, actually, I don't believe that it actually occurred in the first place, and it's gone against them. Elsa poses the question, at what point are they going to realise this is a game of fast diminishing returns for them? Well, in short, they're not. He's too thick to understand this, and her narcissism won't let her do so. Despite everything, Buckingham Palace is still standing. King Charles is busy planning his first overseas state visit to France and Germany. Queen Camilla is being met by enthusiastic flag-waving crowds. William popped over to Poland to give a masterclass in soft power. And Kate recently corralled 9 of the world's biggest companies to help her with her early years' work. All of them following the approach of ignoring Harry's wife, and it's paid dividends for them. Overall, they're doing just fine, and the Sussexes' various brickbats have not really made much of a mark. Polling done in the United Kingdom after Harry's memoir Wah hit shelves has Charles on a 62% approval rating, about where he was before his mother, Queen Elizabeth's death in September last year. William and Kate's numbers have both softened, but nothing to start really sweating over. Harry and Harry's wife, however, have taken a serious hit, falling to an all-time low in January and then falling even further to a lower all-time low in February, threat to control. One stat that really puts things into stark perspective: Camilla has better approval numbers in America than either the Duke or Duchess. Meanwhile, Rock is not the only comedian to have made the pair the butt of his jokes. Chelsea Handler, Trevor Noah and Jimmy Kimmel have all got in on the act. Last month, South Park devoted an entire episode to mocking them, and now publisher Little Brown UK claim they were publishing a parody of his autobiography called Spare Us. This is the price that the Sussexes are paying for their Palace campaign, having failed to really gain a huge amount of PR ground. And, interjecting, it is indicative and demonstrative of the fact that people have had enough of the revisions of history and the lies. Their Netflix series, the epically unoriginally titled Harry and Harry's Wife and Wah, only confirmed people's established views of everyone involved here and didn't really move the dial much. No hearts and minds were swayed to the Sussex course either time. Harry might be fighting to squeeze some sort of admission or acknowledgement, or even an apology, gluten-free muffin basket, I'm guessing from his family, but instead he ended up with an immovable palace, a king who has refused to give an inch, and large chunks of Americans having gone off them, which would also be particularly bad news for Netflix and Spotify. Harry cannot win the campaign he's been waging against the royal family. It's just a smidgen now, over 40 days until his father, King Charles's coronation. Will the Sussexes go? Will Harry's wife turn up in 6 figures worth of couture? Will Harry glare daggers at his brother, and will Princess Anne refuse to share her secret stash of emergency coronation butterscotch with them? At this stage, unless you have a crystal ball or a very good psychic's number, no one can say for sure. But right now, it certainly looks like the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are losing the power struggle with Charles. Here's a thought. Maybe back in 2012, Harry should have taken a break from slurping Sambuca with hen parties from Sarasota and had a quick spin around the tables. Then he might have learnt that you don't go all in and show your hand unless you're dead certain you will triumph. Of course, Harry doesn't know what he's dealing with. Harry doesn't know that he's strapped to a particular horse that must run in a particular direction. And of course, here we have seen the expertly advised royals ensuring that they ignore Harry and Harry's wife. They've weathered the storm that has occurred, and, as is often the case, especially with mid-range narcissists, give them enough rope and they'll hang themselves. And that's precisely what Harry's wife has done. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.